What's shaking, bacon? In today's video, we're going to discuss the importance of how to handle the holidays. You know, when it comes to holiday eating, it gets so difficult because you end up having so much food in front of you. You have everybody saying, try this. It's just this one bite. Don't worry about it. What's one bite? And people mean well. We know that. People aren't trying to sabotage you, but if you're trying this type of eating, it's tough to be around that other food in the beginning until you get to the point where you're sort of bulletproof and you've been doing it long enough that it doesn't tempt you. And you do get there. Some people it takes a couple weeks, some people it takes a couple months. I find personally in the past with me, 3 months is my magic window. After 1 month of doing a carnivore diet, it's pretty good. I don't have any temptation if it's not in front of me, but I wouldn't want to go to a buffet or something like that or somebody's house for dinner. By 2 months, I'm doing pretty good. I could probably hold my own in those situations, but it takes about 3 months for me, for those cravings to completely go away. So everyone's different. And what you got to keep in mind is you can't put yourself in tempting situations. What you don't want to do is set yourself back. When you set yourself back on a way of eating like this, it gets really difficult because you want to move forward and you're trying to do something healthy, even if it's just for a window of time to see how you feel, and you end up sabotaging yourself. I made a small list of things you can do to help in these situations. I want you to keep in mind, if you can make it through the holidays, you can make it through the day-to-day life easier because in your home, you can control the food that's in front of you. Even if you're cooking with other people in the family, or you're sitting at the dinner table, you can still control what's there a little bit better. And it's just tougher when you have all these really tempting foods during the holiday seasons, especially with desserts, all the desserts that are around. And everyone wants to make you happy by giving you their awesome homemade dessert, right? So, or they bought something that they know you love. And that's when you gotta turn around, and sometimes you may feel like a bit of a jerk, but you have to say, look, I can't do this right now. I really appreciate it. So I ended up making a list of ways to avoid some of these setbacks and problems you might run into when you're at these family gatherings. So first and foremost, I found it's just easiest if you just explain that you're on an elimination diet. So people, if you say you're doing a diet for the rest of your life, will hear what you're doing, this all meat diet, and they'll think it's just bonkers. It's just out there. It doesn't need to be a dinner table conversation. Unless you feel really confident in what you're doing and you're pretty well armed and you're out of the temptation phase. But in the beginning, all those things are kind of difficult. So you have to just remember, it's easier if you sometimes just say, yeah, I'm temporarily doing this elimination diet to help manage some food sensitivities. And I'm just cutting one of my 3 macronutrients out temporarily. So I'm still getting all my calories in a day. You can tell that to them to kind of ease their way of thinking. You can say, yeah, I'm still getting all my calories in a day, but I can have the meat, I can have some fat, but I just can't have carbohydrates right now. And I plan on bringing them back in at one point soon enough. But right now, this is what I'm doing. And most people, when they hear it's like a food sensitivity thing, they go, oh, okay. And they don't want to push at that point. But some people might still be baffled at what you're doing. And it's a good idea to be like, you know, I really don't want it to be a dinner table conversation. Maybe we can talk about it another time. Let's go on and enjoy our family dinner. You know, when everyone sees you're ready to move on from the conversation before it becomes a big topic where everyone's sitting there and, you know, they want to ask all these questions, or some people want to be kind of confrontational about it, or some people just are disagreeing straight out about what you're doing. They don't mind when it's phrased as an elimination diet. So never underestimate the power of that phrase, elimination diet. Keep the conversation short. And say, yeah, well, I'll explain another time. I'm trying to not talk about it too much right now. And people will usually respect that. Now, you might get the odd person who wants to push their dessert on you. And that's when you have to say, and maybe feel like a bad guy and say, look, I'm really trying to give this a fair shot because my health just hasn't been what it once was. And I just need to do this temporarily. I really appreciate you wanting me to try this, but I just can't right now. And, you know, if they really respect you, even if they are pushing it, they're not going to take it personally, you know, and you just tell them how much you love that dish that they normally make or that they want to give you. Just be like, you can't do it right now. And if they try and tell you to take it home, play it by ear. You know, sometimes you might want to just take it home and give it to one of the kids or the spouse or something like that. Or if you have to, get rid of it. But like, you don't want to offend anyone at the same time. Another important thing you can do is get full on the food you can eat before you go to any of these family functions. So if dinner's at 4, at 3 o'clock or 3:30, have a bunch of red meat. Red meat especially, more than any other meat, because it's more satiating. It'll keep you full longer. Eat as much as you can eat until you're literally saying to yourself, I can't handle anymore. And then what happens is when you get there, you're already full, so you're not gonna be tempted because you're already full. When you're already full, you can just eat whatever you want. And someone say turkey as an example. You can have some turkey and no one's really gonna look sideways at you if you're just having a small amount. Or maybe when the dessert comes out, that's gonna be the real temptation. If you're full, you're not gonna be as tempted. It's simple as that. So you still might be tempted, but you won't be nearly as tempted. It could be that difference between giving in or not giving in. Another option is go into the next room. Don't put yourself in front of that food, or don't let that food get put in front of you if you think you're not strong enough. If you wanna go into the other room, or maybe a quick run to the bathroom, while the dessert's out, because that the dessert might be on the table for 20 minutes or an hour, right? So it's a good thing for you to do. Maybe you can make an excuse to leave early. It's going to be a lot easier if it's not in front of you. And, maybe go back and say hi at one point, but don't sit down, and have a little bit of conversation when you come back, and maybe after like 15 or 20 minutes to see if it's gone. And if not, go back to the room you're in. There's always somebody else at one of these get-togethers that you can pull aside and go into the other room and just sit down and chat with, right? And it doesn't have to be a serious one-on-one chat. You can talk about anything, right? But the important thing is just removing yourself from the situation while you're feeling. Now, another thing you can do is have your spouse kind of speak on your behalf a little bit. So if they see that, you're starting to have a difficult time, they can come in, change the conversation. They can maybe help you out a little bit, whatever you might need at the time. Try and be a team with this. So maybe it's gonna be one of your kids who can just help and distract you. Another option is to have a family member or friend who understands what you're trying to do, and see if they can kind of pitch in on your team, not to get into any more of a discussion, but maybe to try and end the discussion, because sometimes that's just the easiest way to go. If you have to, bring a little bit of your own food. That's another thing you can do. If you just say to whoever it is that is hosting the dinner, you can just say, look, I have to apologize in advance. I'm doing this elimination diet right now. I really can't have some of this other food. It's just temporary. It just happens to coincide with the holidays, and I'm gonna bring my own dish. So that way you don't have to prepare anything for me. I really appreciate it. And that way you can just have your own little dish of, say, ground beef or steak. Say, I don't want to make a fuss out of this. I'm really sorry. I'm a little embarrassed I have to do that. And then they'll kind of go in your corner and be like, no, man, you let me know whatever you need. You let me know. And they'll maybe even stick up for you when people start bugging you, because you've already explained it to the host before you went there that this is what you're doing, and just ask for their support and try to let them know you don't want it to be a big thing at the dinner table. And maybe they'll politely talk to people before dinner, or maybe when the time comes, they'll be really discreet and just keep detouring the conversation whenever it goes back to that. And they can kind of be in your corner. So have someone in your corner. So when it comes down to something like this, it's all usually about friends and family. And that's hopefully who you're around during the holiday seasons when you're at these meals. And no one wants to steer you in a wrong direction. Everyone wants what's best for you. So it's a matter of communicating it well to other people. I've been doing this personally long enough that doesn't faze me. My family knows when I go to their house for dinner, I'll bring my own food, or sometimes, my father, that's an insult to my father. He's a proud old Italian guy. He wants to prepare food for you. You don't bring food to his house. We don't want this to be the focus of everyone's holiday, because you know what happens if you go into this and you're unprepared about how to back up what you're doing. You're not going to be able to explain it well, and people are just going to get really concerned for you, and they're going to think this is not good and it's not healthy. So if you're not that confident about how you can explain this to people, don't get into it. And more importantly, more than anything, I would say the biggest thing is don't get drawn into a conversation with someone who keeps asking the questions but doesn't want to hear the answers, because they already know the answers in their head and they don't agree with what you're saying. And then at that point, there's nothing you can say. They just want to be confrontational, or they want to kind of push it down because it goes against their beliefs. Whether it's because they're a vegetarian or vegan, or maybe they believe you should have a balance of all the 4 food groups, whatever their reasoning is. Maybe they have some education in nutrition and they just completely disagree with what you're doing. You can tell the difference when someone is curious and they genuinely want to know what you're doing, and the difference between someone who's going to be confrontational. So my advice is to not even get into it, especially with those people. I hope this was helpful, and I hope we can get together another time and we can discuss this topic or any other topic you're interested in, because quite frankly, these videos are going to be on here for a long time and they're always going to be applicable. Because I filmed it today doesn't mean it's not going to be beneficial in 2 years. So you might stumble across this video right before your own Christmas or Thanksgiving or some holiday, some just regular family get-together or barbecue. And it's good to go into it with a bit of a game plan near the beginning. After a while, people just accept what you're doing, but you don't need to tell them everything up front. That's a bit overwhelming for people. So sometimes just little bits at a time is good. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, please. Hope you have a great day.